Hello, this is the voice of Rachel Deiterding, Assistant Curator at the MacLaren Art Centre. This video is going to give a summary of a presentation that I gave on March 11th at the Barrie Art Club. And the goal of the video and the presentation is really just to introduce people to the project Garden Follies, address some questions that have come up within the community and members of the Barrie Art Club, and just generally go over how people can go about creating work for this project and then submitting it for consideration. I want to start just by introducing the project at a high level. So the project is really an opportunity for members of the Barrie Art Club to submit works to be displayed in a curated exhibition at the MacLaren Art Centre. And I really want to stress that this opportunity is open to all members of the Barrie Art Club, no matter kind of where they are in their exploration of their artistic practice. The exhibition will be on view in the Carnegie Room from June 16th to October 22nd, and we will be accepting submissions via our online submission portal, which can be found on our website up until May 1st of this year. So the goal of this project is really to help facilitate professional artist development in Barrie, and we're hoping that with this project, it will give artists the opportunity to make new work, to explore a theme that might be outside of their comfort zone, and really to create an opportunity for regional artists to have a public presentation of their work in a public gallery. And so to do this, up to 10 artists from the submissions that we receive will be selected to have their works displayed in the show, and they will be paid according to the recommendations set by CARFAC. And for those who aren't familiar with CARFAC, it stands for Canadian Artists Representation, and then the FAC portion is the French part, but it is an organization that sets recommendations for how artists should be paid for providing different kinds of services, including exhibitions. For those of you who are not a member of the Barrie Art Club, do not fret. The Barrie Art Club welcomes anyone to become a member, and you can check out their website in order to learn more about how to become a member and what that entails. Next, I want to take a couple minutes to explore the theme Garden Follies in a little bit more detail. So this theme really emerged from the other exhibition that will be on view at the MacLaren during the summer, so at the same time as this project. And so it's called petrichor, which is really kind of a fancy word to describe the smell of rain when it has just fallen onto dry soil. This is an image of a couple of works that are going to be featured in the exhibition. I thought I would include them here for inspiration. So Petrichor is a show with two multimedia artists, Muriel Stern and Nicholas Kronbach, and they have been working collaboratively for a number of years, since about 2017. And this is their second collaborative exhibition, which is curated by Sheila McMath. And so in this project, they're kind of making their own works, but responding to each other. So as a duo, these two artists are really interested in exploring human relationships with the natural world. And so this has taken the form of exploring natural history museums, looking to gardens from the past and the present, as well as horticultural practices, and kind of just exploring the general ways in which humans have sought to order, control, and understand the environments that we found ourselves in. So with that, I selected the theme of Garden Follies as a way for the two shows to kind of work together and explore similar themes. So these themes of kind of ordering and controlling our environments as humans. And so the reason that I'm particularly interested in the Garden Folly is because it is this architectural structure that was erected into gardens, and it really didn't have a practical function. They were meant to be beautiful, and they were symbols of the person who owned the land. So they served as a symbol of their wealth, of their worldliness, and also of their control and kind of mastery over the landscape. And oftentimes, these structures were actually built to look like ancient ruins. So they were really giving this sense of a long-standing control over the land on the part of the landowner, when in reality they were just kind of built to have this effect and weren't actually representative of the relationship of that person to the landscape. So as a structure that is really interested in kind of asserting human control over the land, I thought that the garden folly might be a useful starting point to think about a lot of the complexities around the idea of human control and intervention over the land. And that it's something that is broad enough that people can take it in many different directions that will allow them to work within their existing practice or to develop a new idea and to work with it in a new way. This is another example that I just thought of while I was preparing this presentation. So it will not be in petrichor, but I just thought it was kind of a great example of a work that kind of explores this theme. So this artist, Shannon Garden Smith, has created these lamps out of gelatin and then has suspended little dried out flowers within the gelatin. And so this is quite a conceptual approach, but she's thinking about making us consider the spaces that we live in, how people construct these spaces, and the dichotomy between inside and outside, or the natural environment, and our constructed residential spaces. So in general, my hope is that the theme Garden Follies will produce a broad response from the club to produce not only images of gardens and ancient garden structures, but a range of works that reflect broadly on the human desire to control the land, the outcome of our search for control over the landscape, and what the future of our landscapes might look like. And so I'm really interested in people kind of taking the idea and letting it go wherever it takes you. But I also have a few kind of potential examples to get people started in thinking about what they might make. But there's really, the options are really quite endless. So things that could be submitted could be a still life, perhaps a landscape. I think that traditionally landscapes often remove the human figure and are trying to show kind of the power of the landscape itself, and are kind of removing humans as players in that land. So I'm quite interested in that. So people who work with landscapes can kind of maybe explore that idea a little bit. And the work that you produce might kind of look the same as a traditional landscape, but maybe you're approaching it from a bit of a different perspective. People can also think about urban space and how it has been constructed or ordered, how it considers human needs and maybe casts aside the needs of other beings that we share the earth with. People could also explore concerns about changes that we're seeing in our landscape and other issues of climate change. There's also the potential for people to explore domestic spaces and think through how we shape and order our homes, or the things that kind of we regularly surround ourselves with. And definitely the project is not limited to figurative work. I would also welcome people to explore non-figurative expressions of the theme, and these could perhaps be channeled into feelings around land, around gardens, around climate change, or kind of other related topics. The options are really endless, and what I'm most curious about is people's various responses to the theme. So I'm really curious to see kind of the sub-themes that emerge among the submissions, and the many different directions that people take this idea and apply it to their work in a creative way. So I want to be really clear that as a theme, the garden folly as an idea is really meant to be a starting point, And artists are totally welcome to go outside of the bounds of what you might think the garden folly is, and to think quite expansively when creating their work, as long as there are some kind of at least tangential threads to tie us back to the original ideas that surround the garden folly, then you're good to go. Now I will review some of the submission requirements and try and address any questions that came up in my original presentation. But feel free to send me an email, which was included on the first slide, if you have any follow-up questions. So as I mentioned before, submissions will only be accepted from members of the Barrie Art Club. So if you're not a member, feel free to become a member, and remember that all members of the club are really encouraged to submit. Submissions must be made through the online submission portal, which can be found on the MacLaren's website by May 1st. And so in terms of artwork requirements, artists are invited to submit up to 12 works of art of any size and of any medium, provided that they are able to fit within the Carnegie Room in terms of their scale. And there's also a few other limitations related to the Carnegie Room that I'll talk about on the next slide. All artworks must be submitted with at least one image of the artwork, along with the title, date, materials, dimensions, and an artist statement of up to 250 words. And so the reason that we're asking for an artist statement is to just get a bit of context about what you were thinking when you were making the work and how it's related to the theme. And this writing can be quite short. It doesn't have to be 250 words. If writing about your artwork is not something that you're comfortable with, you're welcome to just submit 1 or 2 sentences about your thoughts behind this work and how it's related to the theme. We are going to prioritize new works of art that were created for this exhibition, and this links into what I mentioned earlier in the presentation about this being really an opportunity to foster artistic development. So we're interested in those who are submitting works that were created specifically with this theme in mind, but artists are also welcome to submit existing works that fit into the framework of the theme overall. We're also encouraging people to submit multiple artworks or multiple artworks that are part of a series. And so you can submit, for example, a series that has 4 or 5 artworks in it, and then a couple other independent artworks as well. I would just ask that if you're submitting a series of artworks, you submit one artist statement for the whole series to talk about the series and how it relates to the theme. And then if you submit any additional standalone artworks, that you submit an artist statement for each individual artwork that is not part of the series. So that way there's a little bit of context for each artwork or each series of artworks that are submitted. We're also asking that artworks be produced within the last 5 years and that they have not been displayed in another public exhibition in Simcoe County in the last 2 years. If you have any concerns about these, feel free to shoot me an email and we can talk about your individual situation. And then lastly, all artworks must be exhibition ready. So this means that they include all hanging hardware or necessary equipment that is required for display. And there's also been discussions about the Barrie Art Club hosting a workshop to discuss how to get your works exhibition ready. But really what this means is that when it arrives at the gallery, we're able to just easily hang it on the wall without making any major alterations. So as I mentioned, I'm going to return to a few details about the Carnegie Room because it is quite a particular space with some limitations because it is a multi-purpose gallery and event space. And so this limits the kinds of works that we can show. The image on the right here shows the dimensions of the gallery. The kind of triple line portions of the wall are the windows, and the kind of inlet on the right side there, the the 7'9" inlet, that is a fireplace, but works can be hung above the fireplace. Because this is an event space where we often have community events and weddings, we're requesting that works be 2D and able to be affixed to the wall with a low profile, so that this means that they just don't stick out too far, so that as people are moving around the space and using the center of the space for events and things, that the work isn't going to harm any people who are moving around, and that the work is not going to be damaged by the people using the space. Because of the kind of event nature of the space, it makes working with sculptures, installations, or projections that extend from the wall more than around 15 centimeters quite challenging. However, if you have a particular work that you think is kind of on the cusp, and we could maybe make work with some creative installation solutions, feel free to send me an email and we can talk on a one-to-one basis about the particular needs of your project, and I can take any concerns to our event staff to see if we can work together to figure out something that will work. The other thing to consider is that because this is not a gallery space only, all works must also be appropriate for display for all ages and appropriate to be shown during weddings. And so artworks may be rejected if they're not deemed acceptable for display within the context of the event space. Again, if you have any specific concerns about one of your submissions in this regard, feel free to send me an email and we can chat about that in more detail. Next, I just wanted to show you how the submission portal works. So if you go to MacLarenArt.com under exhibitions, you can see that at the bottom here we have call for submissions, Garden Follies. If you click on that, that brings you to this web page, which has the most up-to-date information about the project. So if there are any date changes or anything, they will be updated here, and you can see the last time that this submission guidelines document was updated. And this is kind of the Bible for all things about this project. You can also access the submission portal here. So if we click that, it opens up a new tab where you can input the information for your submission. So you can input your first name, your last name, and your pronouns so that we know how to refer to you. You can input some contact information, so your address, your email address, and your phone number. Here you can also confirm that you're a member of the Barrie Art Club. There's also a field to put in your website if you have a website that shows some more of your artworks, but this is absolutely not necessary and it's not required to be filled out. Next, we have the artwork submission section of the page. So as I mentioned, we're asking that you submit one artwork per submission. And if you would like to submit multiple images of the same artwork, so a few different angles or a detail shot, you're welcome to do so. We're just going to ask that you scroll to the bottom of the page and use this optional image file upload section. And so here you can upload any additional images, extra images, and detail shots. So if we go back up here, you just hit this select files button and then you can go through your computer to choose what you would like to upload. If you are submitting multiple artworks in a series, please upload one image per artwork in the series. That way we can see each artwork that makes up the series. If you're submitting individual artworks, obviously upload one image per individual artwork. For each image file that you upload, you're going to add the information for the image and the artwork details into this section here, so the required image details. You can hit this plus to add a new row, and you want to have one row for every file that you have uploaded. So you'll type in the name of the image file so that we can match this information to the image, the title of the artwork, the medium, the dimensions, the year that it was made, and then just Y or N for yes or no if it's been exhibited in Simcoe County in the last 2 years. So please make sure that the image file name matches the file that you've uploaded so that we can match up the artworks. Next, we have the artist statement section. So this is just a free type text box. So I talked about the artist statements before, and this is where you will include them. You can copy and paste from another word processing software, or you can type directly in this box. So like we can write artist statement and then hit enter and provide a description. If you're if you're submitting artworks in a series, you can just do one artist statement for the whole series. So you can write, the series name, and then list the artwork names, and then write your artist statement. If you submit a series and then you have a couple of other works that you also want to submit, you can add another artwork name and then the artist statement below. And so you can do this just hitting enter to create a new section for each artwork or series that you're submitting. So now finally, we're back to this optional image file upload. So again, we're asking that you submit only one image per artwork submission. And if you want to submit multiple images, so more than one image of the same artwork, then you can upload them here. Again, you want to fill out an image description line for each image file that's uploaded and include the image file name and then the same title, medium, dimensions, and year as you listed in the original artwork submission above. This information here is really just to allow us to connect it to the original submission that was made up here. So in terms of your images, the max file size that can be uploaded in either of these submission boxes is 4 megabytes. There is no set size that your images need to be, as long as when you're viewing it on your laptop screen, you think that it accurately captures the artwork and is clear, then that is completely fine. If you're having any issues with this form, say for example, you need to upload some additional image files and they won't all fit, or you're having trouble getting them within the maximum file size, feel free to send me an email and I'm happy to chat on a one-to-one basis to figure out, to either fix this page or to figure out an alternate way for you to submit your artworks. In terms of how we will be selecting which artworks are on display, there's kind of 4 things that I'm thinking about, which are listed on the slide here, but really I'm interested in the different ways that people take the theme and how the works that are submitted kind of work together and in conversation as a group. So that's kind of what I mean when I say relevance to the theme and adherence to the overall curatorial vision, and then coherence with sub-themes that emerge within the submission pool. It's hard to say at the outset exactly what the curatorial vision is, because this will be defined in part by the kinds of work that are submitted. And so, as I said, I've outlined kind of how I'm thinking about the theme, but decisions will also be made based on how the works all work together. So that being said, someone could submit a really technically strong work that is not selected because it doesn't fit kind of within the overall theme and narrative that is being developed among the submissions. And so while we are going to consider the general quality of work as long as the artist's statement, again, the thing that I'm really most concerned with and how we are going to make decisions is really based on how the works fit with the theme and how they work together as a group. So you really never know how your work is going to function in conversation with others. So I would encourage everyone to submit works, even if they're not sure about them or you feel that it's maybe not the best work that you've ever done, because it might be a perfect pairing with something that someone else has created, and that will actually make it a really strong selection for the exhibition. So in terms of how we will let people know if their artwork has been selected, there's going to be 2 rounds of selection. So as I mentioned, the online submission portal will be open until May 1st. Around May 15th, we will have reviewed all of the submissions and have developed a short list of submissions from that initial pool, and we will contact those artists to let them know that they've been invited to the second round. So there will be a week between when people are notified on around at the 15th, and then when we will need to have artworks dropped off at the gallery. So on May 22nd, we will have the deadline for artworks to be dropped off at the MacLaren, and we will review these artworks in person and then let the final artists that have been selected know about the results on May 29th. So at this point, we will send an email that says whether you've been accepted or not. Those who are accepted will receive an exhibition contract and a request for any other information in order to facilitate the show. And the artists who have not been accepted will receive details to begin the conversation about how to pick up their work. The reason why we're doing 2 rounds here is because I really recognize that sometimes the details of a work don't really come through in a digital image. So doing 2 rounds allows us to see more works in person and to really get kind of the material essence of the work before we make our final decisions. I would encourage people to check our website and continually check the submission guidelines document, because these dates are subject to change a little bit, but these are the dates that we're working with for now. Finally, all communication will be made via email. So the submission portal will ask for your email address. Feel free to give me an email or give me a call. You can find my phone number on the MacLaren website if you would prefer an alternative method of communication. And to conclude, I would like to invite everyone to attend our summer exhibition opening reception. It will be on June 16th from 6:30 p.m. to 9 p.m. And it will be a great opportunity to come and celebrate your fellow club members who are featured in the Garden Follies exhibition, as well as to celebrate the opening of Petrichor, the other summer exhibition, which I mentioned earlier. The artists and the curator of Petrichor will be in attendance that evening, and there will be a talk about that show, so you'll have the opportunity to speak to the artist and the curator directly, as well as have the opportunity to hopefully invite all of your family and friends to see your work on display in the Carnegie Room. So I really want to say thank you for taking the time to watch this video, and I hope that you make a submission to this project. If you have any questions, concerns, or want to clarify anything, feel free to shoot me an email. It's included on the slide here. It's just my first name, Rachel, @MacLarenArt.com. Also, if you want to discuss what you're thinking about submitting, I'm happy to respond to any emails to let you know if you're on the right track with an artwork. Yeah, just feel free to reach out with whatever you need. I want to make sure that everyone feels like they can submit their works, and that I'm available to clarify the process as much as possible in order to make it kind of easy and accessible as possible for everyone. Thank you.